podcast, and I wanted to show you the fantastic weather we have here in Sweden. I hope that you're all doing fantastic. I hope you continue to contribute with questions for the channel, because that's basically what I'm basing all my podcasts on, is what you guys want to know. And you guys include everyone. You don't have to be interested in becoming a pilot to watch this channel. You can, if you're just interested in aviation as a whole. Maybe you've had a question when you've been flying somewhere. You want to get that answered. Then please just come on into the channel, send it in to me, and I will do my absolute best to try to answer it in simple and clear to understand, constructive and positive way. For now, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Anda menjalankan bisnis spa, massage, atau bisnis jasa lainnya? Anda kewalahan dengan pengaturan jadwal yang berantakan dan sering berubah-ubah? Anda tidak puas dengan banyaknya reservasi yang berakhir no-show? Mungkin juga Anda punya website, tapi untuk reservasi masih mengandalkan telepon atau email yang tidak efektif? Ya, cek slot dulu, balas lagi, berubah lagi, dan parahnya tidak mampu merespon 24 jam sehari. Bayangkan berapa potensi bisnis Anda yang telah hilang. Sudah saatnya Anda dapat menerima reservasi online langsung oleh pelanggan Anda sendiri, baik melalui website maupun sosial media. Sudah saatnya staf Anda dapat memantau dan mengelola reservasi yang perlu mereka handle melalui gadget mereka sendiri. Sudah saatnya manajemen jadwal, pesanan, dan staf Anda menjadi terpadu dan mudah. Sudah saatnya kalender reservasi Anda terisi semakin penuh dengan banyaknya peluang reservasi tambahan yang terjawab dengan lebih maksimal. Sudah saatnya tingkat pembatalan atau no-show menurun drastis dengan sistem reminder otomatis yang lebih efektif. Sudah saatnya pelanggan Anda menjadi semakin setia dengan pelayanan prima dan program loyalty point yang dapat mereka kumpulkan seiring terus kembali menggunakan layanan Anda. Sudah saatnya Anda sebagai pemilik dapat menyaksikan pertumbuhan bisnis secara online dari rumah atau sambil bertamasya. Ya, sudah saatnya bisnis jasa Anda semakin maju, semakin praktis, semakin menguntungkan. Sudah saatnya Anda menggunakan Zenwell, sistem reservasi yang terintegrasi, lengkap, dan optimal. Apapun bisnis jasa Anda, spa dan massage, salon, barbershop, haircut, kelas zumba, yoga, aerobik, gym, fitness, klinik kecantikan, klinik kesehatan, dan berbagai jenis bisnis usaha jasa lainnya. Zenwell, your every customer is matter.
Introducing Speechelo, the most natural sounding text-to-speech software on the market. Hey, I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from Speechelo. You listened to this video until now and you probably couldn't tell I'm not a real human voice. That's because I understand exactly what each phrase is saying, and I know how to put inflections in my voice, just like a real human would do. I was coded in that way that my neuro-linguistic engine will analyze the phrases, and I understand when I'm enumerating something, when I have to emphasize a word, or I need to take a deep breath. But you don't have to worry about any of these things. With Speechelo you can generate as many voiceovers as you want with only 3 clicks. Yes, you heard me right. Only 3 clicks. Click number 1. Just paste the text you want to be transformed into speech in our online text editor. Click number 2. Choose the language and voice that you want to use. We offer male, female, and even kids' voices. And finally, click number 3. Click on generate and in 5 seconds your voiceover is ready to be downloaded. How cool is that? And you didn't have to pay a single cent. And didn't have to wait a week to receive your voiceover. We offer voices that are perfect for training videos, voices that are perfect for presentation videos, and voices that sound like Hollywood movie trailers, and even cute voices that sound joyful and innocent. All our voices have elements that make a voice sound real, and include all the voice expressions needed to make people more engaged in your content, and make it sound professional. Actually, 98% of people hearing a generated with Speechelo can't tell it's not a real human voice. This video is created with a voice from Speechelo, and you are still here, watching and listening to what I have to say. That proves my point. So here is the deal. For a limited time, you're getting the deal of a lifetime. Normally we will sell Speechelo as a monthly recurring service. But today, because you are in the first 1,000 people to join, you get a special founders offer. You can get Speechelo for a ridiculously low one-time fee and no monthly recurrings. The price you see on this page is the lowest it'll ever be. In fact, the price increases with each minute that passes. If you want to lock in the price, don't refresh the page, don't bookmark it for later, just go ahead and click the Buy Now button below, right now. Once the launch ends, the price shoots way up. But, honestly, even at $500, that's an incredible deal for the power you're being granted. You will make that amount back in no time. Outsourcing the creation of a single voiceover will cost you more than the price of this offering. And you will have to wait after the freelancers, not to mention that you could just don't like the end result. And you will waste hundreds of dollars in vain. I'm 100% confident that you will love Speechelo. In fact, I'm so confident that I'm going to make this a complete risk-free decision for you. If you create a voiceover using Speechelo and you don't like it, I will refund all your money and let you keep the voiceover that you created. So, now that you have no risk, you also have no excuses. Go ahead and click the Buy Now button below and profit from the one-time payment offer and the huge discount that we have for the first 1,000 users. Let's quickly recap why you should get Speechelo today. You'll be able to transform any text into speech. You'll get over 30 human-sounding voices. You'll be able to create voiceovers in over 23 languages, and you'll be able to create as many voiceovers as you want. Well, what are you waiting for? Click the Buy Now button below and profit from our special offer right now. And remember, you are covered by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Yet another video podcast. I hope you're all doing fantastic as always. So, today on the podcast I am going to be talking about turbulence. Turbulence is one of these things that I get a lot of questions about, maybe not here on the channel, but a lot where I am working and I meet people who are afraid of flying. So, what I want to do with this podcast is explain a little bit about what turbulence is, if you should be afraid of it, and what we in the cockpit are doing to avoid turbulence, and just give you a little bit of an overview of it. Okay, so stay tuned. It's going to be a quite interesting one, and if you know anyone who are afraid of flying or something, you might want to share this video with them, because I think it's going to be reassuring. Okay, so the best way to think about turbulence is the air is like a fluid, okay? It's like water, and a fluid who is being disturbed will cause little vortexes. So, for example, if you're looking at water flowing down a river and it flows past a stone, you can clearly see how the water moves around the stone and it creates little vortexes and stuff around it. And air does exactly the same, and of course an aircraft flies within the air, so it will be subjected to these little vortexes. Generally, when you feel turbulence just after takeoff at a lower level, this is what you feel. You feel the air who has been moving over mountains, buildings, terminal buildings, things like that. And when it's encountering these obstacles, it's forming these little vortexes, which is going to be felt like this little shudder of turbulence that you can get just after takeoff. It can actually extend for a couple of thousand feet, especially if you're taking off close to a mountain range and it's really strong winds, for example. And it feels really quite unpleasant, but the fact is that it's not very dangerous, okay? It's an everyday occurrence for us, and it's turbulence will not, and I'm going to state this very clearly now in the beginning of the podcast, turbulence is not dangerous to an aircraft in the way that you think that it's dangerous, okay? Turbulence is not dangerous to the aircraft structure as such. It's not going to flip the aircraft over and throw it into the ground. It's not going to bend the wings or anything like that. Turbulence can be a little bit dangerous because things inside of the aircraft, which are generally the passengers and the hand luggage and the trolleys and the cabin crew, can, if they encounter turbulence suddenly, of course, be thrown around a bit. So when you guys hear about passengers being injured because of turbulence, the newspapers love to load this up into their headlines saying that 15 people were injured during the flight because of turbulence. This is generally what's happened. The aircraft has moved into an area of turbulence which was not forecasted, which meant that people were moving about, and when they hit the turbulence they might have fallen over, or they might have gotten warm coffees scalding their hands, or trolleys might have fallen on someone. If it's really, really bad, someone might have actually been thrown up and hit their heads on the ceiling. So this happens quite commonly. I would say it's probably one of the most common ways that people are being injured when it comes to the airline industry. But this is the way that turbulence generally are dangerous. Okay, it has nothing to do with the structural integrity of the aircraft. It has to do with people falling over, just like they would on a boat or a train or a car if they were walking around in a bus, for example. This is also why we, the pilots, we always switch on the seatbelt sign when there's any indication of turbulence coming up. That is because we want you guys to come back and sit down and put your seatbelts on so that you won't be thrown around in case we would hit turbulence. We also tend to tell our cabin crew both in the briefing before in the morning that today on this route we might encounter turbulence, so be vigilant against it. And if we feel that we are getting reports that we're about to enter a turbulent area, we might even tell the cabin crew to stop their service and return to their seats, because we don't want them to injure themselves and we don't want them to pour hot coffee over someone or something like that. So when you hear that cabin crew return to your stations, for example, due to turbulence, it's because of that. We want everyone to be strong. And this is also why we always tell people to keep their seatbelts on when you're in your seat, because you never really know when you hit one of these little pockets of turbulence. And it's always the safest way to sit down with your seatbelt fastened. Okay. So low-level turbulence is generally caused by the air moving over buildings or mountains and things like that. As you climb, you are likely to encounter two other types of turbulence. So the turbulence that I'm explaining first is the one associated with thunderstorms. So I'm sure you've all seen on these like summer days, late summer days, these thunderstorms that starts to form, and when the clouds are big enough they will have a top that looks a little bit like cotton, really dark, and they can sometimes produce lightning and thunder. Within these clouds the air is moving really, really quickly, both up and down, okay? And that type of air movement causes very severe turbulence. But the good thing is that these type of clouds also contain a lot of water and moisture in different forms, which means that our weather radars that we have can detect them very easily. When something has a lot of water in it, a lot of movement, the weather radar can very clearly detect where these storm clouds are, and we have very clear stipulated distances to avoid these clouds by. Okay, so we don't fly through them and we don't even fly near them. You might think that it looks like we fly near them, but that's because they're really big normally, and we stay several nautical miles away from an active thunderstorms. So that's turbulence that's associated with convective activity with thunderstorms. We just clearly do not fly through it. And if it tends to be one of those thunderstorms sitting on top of an airport, we don't land. We go to another airport and we land there instead. The other type of turbulence that you might encounter is something called clear air turbulence. Now, clear air turbulence is something different. I don't know if you guys have heard of something called a jet stream. A jet stream is basically a very quick kind of torrent of air that moves around in the upper part of the atmosphere, and it moves at very, very high speeds, and it's generally fairly small in its geographical size. Okay, so it's only extending for a couple of nautical miles, and it moves at speeds of around 100 to 150 knots, so of around 300 kilometers per hour sometimes. Now, the air that's surrounding these jet streams are generally slower moving air, and whenever you have something moving really quickly next to something moving really slowly, those things will kind of rub up against each other. When they do, they cause some of these vortexes at a higher level as well. So I'll show you a picture of a significant weather chart. This is a type of chart that we use when we do our pre-flights, and we look for these types of areas. And if you can see that there is a black arrow going up, and it's turning over Iceland, and it's moving down through Denmark, and next to that it's kind of a dotted line on each side. Now what that is an area of predicted clear air turbulence, and what the black line is a jet stream. So those type of turbulence can be predicted, so it can be in the planning stage predicted, but we can't see it. The weather radar will never pick it up because it doesn't have moisture inside of it. What we can do, however, and what we frequently do, is when we do hit that type of turbulence, because we know that it's very annoying for the passengers, it's not very comfortable, we ask other aircraft around us, or we ask air traffic control if the turbulence is lesser at any other altitude. Because this type of turbulence tends to be associated with only a very limited vertical area. So if we hit a lot of, a moderate amount of turbulence at 38,000 feet, then we ask air traffic control if they have had any reports at 36,000 feet. And if they haven't, we simply just descend the aircraft down, and hopefully it's better there. And we don't do that because we're afraid of the safety of the aircraft. We do that because of the experience for the passengers. Really, it's supposed to be a pleasant experience to fly, and we know that people don't like turbulence. And we also want to drink our coffee, obviously. When it's turbulent, it's hard to drink the coffee, so we want to avoid it as well. Now, to some common questions that I get quite often. So people always ask me, so I've been sitting inside of an aircraft and I've been looking out on the wing, and I've seen how the wing is flexing up and down. Is it supposed to do that? The answer to that is yes. The aircraft are constructed to have a wing structure that is flexible. So when we move into a little bit of turbulence, you will indeed see how the wings are kind of moving a little bit. That's because a flexible structure is stronger than a rigid structure. So if you see the wings are moving up and down, it's actually a good thing. Okay, it's supposed to do that. The body as well is a little bit flexible. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about that, it's also a good idea to explain, because people are asking me, are there any places inside of the aircraft which are more or less subjected to turbulence? And there actually are. If you want to be as little as possible subjected to turbulence, the best places to sit inside an aircraft is as close as possible to the center of gravity, which is over the wings. If you sit on the wings, you will experience less turbulence. The places that will experience more turbulence tends to be the ones toward the back of the aircraft. And that is because the aircraft is flexible. So if you have a bit of turbulence in the middle, the back is going to move a little bit more. So there will be more turbulence in certain parts of the aircraft, but the difference is very small. Other questions that I get quite often is, will it have an effect on the engines, for example? And the answer to that is no. It will not have an effect on the engines. The engines can be affected by a change in airflow into them, but they are constructed to withstand birds flying into them, things like that. So a little bit of turbulence will not affect the engines. So, to summarize, the engines will not be affected, the airframe will not be affected. So you don't have to worry about that in any kind of turbulence that you will encounter. Okay. What the pilots do up in the front, well, I talked a little bit about it. We make sure that we have a weather radar on to see that we avoid thunderstorm, for example. We talk to air traffic control so that we can find areas, if we're in an area with a lot of turbulence, we try to find altitudes which have less turbulence to give our passengers as smooth of a ride and as a comfortable ride as possible. We also actually reduce the speed slightly. We have something called the turbulence penetration speed, but that speed is very, very close to our normal cruising speed. So you as a passenger will never notice that we're reducing the speed in turbulent areas. The same goes for climb, descent. And apart from that, we just try to get ourselves out of the turbulence as soon as possible so that you guys have a pleasant experience in the back, and also so that we can continue drinking our coffee because we really like our coffee. That's it, guys. I hope that answered some of your questions about turbulence, and I hope that reassured you a little bit. Keep sending in questions, send them in below, give me a like if you like it, and as always, feel free to share my videos with your friends, family, or on internet forums. For now, I hope you have a fantastic evening, and I'll see you next time. Hi guys, a very welcome to Mentor, yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're all doing fantastic. So, I'm out here just playing a little bit with the kids, and I thought I'm going to answer a question that I have received more and more frequently lately. And it's one of those questions that we airline pilots generally don't really want to talk too much about, because it's, it's kind of like talking to adult people about Santa Claus and fairies and things like that. The question is about chemtrails. Okay. So, what is chemtrails? Do chemtrails exist? Are commercial pilots actually trying to poison the atmosphere, the people, and control the weather? That's the question. So I'm going to attack this in a scientific way. Okay. I'm going to explain to you what contrails, which is the actual name of chemtrails, is, how they're formed, what it is that you see, and then I'm going to leave it up to you guys whether or not to believe it or not. Okay. That's the easiest way of doing this. So condensation trails are pretty much exactly what it sounds like. So when a jet engine burns jet fuel at high altitudes in low ambient temperatures, like from about 26,000 feet and up to maximum service ceiling of the aircraft, the engines will produce a couple of major components. One of them being water vapor, the other one being CO2, and also some kind of slag products like sulfur, for example. Okay. So the engines are basically pushing this out into the atmosphere. Now, when they do so at temperatures well below zero, first of all, nothing would happen for the first couple of milliseconds because the gases are just too hot. And as soon as the gases cools down, the sulfur and the slag products that are produced are going to be what's called condensation cores, on which the water vapor, when it cools down, will condensate and form water droplets, commonly known as clouds at that altitude. Okay. After that, they will freeze and they will turn into ice crystals. So that's the reason why when you look at an aircraft and you see the contrails after them, the first little bit behind the aircraft is free, and then it will turn white and it will form those nice white streaks in the sky. Okay. Depending on the outside conditions, so how much humidity there is in the air, for example, or how stable the air is, they will either stay there
for a long time, and if it's really stable in the atmosphere, they will form cirrus clouds that kind of streaks out and stays as cirrus clouds. And if there's a lot of air traffic, there's going to be a lot of cirrus clouds formed from contrails. If the atmosphere is very dry, then the water vapor will just be absorbed into the gases around it, and it will not form these types of clouds. That's why you will see a contrail appearing and then disappearing and then starting again. Okay, that's the easy answer to it. That's contrails at altitude. People are also saying that, well, there only forms at altitude. Why do I see sometimes that there are like white streaks coming out of the aircraft from the aircraft wings when it's landing? That's something else. When the aircraft is in landing configuration, or basically any time that the aircraft is using a lot of lift from the wings, so also in the takeoff configuration, since the wing is curved with the flaps, and there's a lot of lift being exerted, there will be a lot of pressure difference between the underside and the top side of the wing. And whenever you have that, when you have a rapid decrease in pressure, it can form condensation as well. So that's what you see. When during the takeoff, landing, and it's really moist outside, it will form either over the wing, it's like close to the flaps, or over the whole top wing of the surface, or outside by the winglets. It will form some streaks, and that is just condensated air, basically water vapor, because of the pressure difference. So those are the scientific facts behind chemtrails. That's what people, when they see these, they look and they say, look, chemtrails, water vapor. That's what it is. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I really enjoy these kind of questions that you send in. Maybe the chemtrail one is not one of my favorites, but all the other questions that you send in, greatly appreciate. Continue doing so, and I will continue to try to answer them, both in the comment section, but also as part of podcasts if I think that they're interesting enough. For now, I'm going to continue to play with my kids. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.
Biskuat 5.000? Goceng 5.000. Ya, beli biskuat 5.000 sekarang.
Hi guys, very welcome to Mentor, yet another video podcast. I hope you're all doing fantastic. So, today on the podcast I'm going to be talking about public announcements, PAs. How to do them, who does them, what do we think about when we have to make a PA during an emergency, for example, or a non-normal situation. Stay on to the end, guys, because even though PA sounds boring at the outset, it is actually fairly interesting, and if you are going to get into this line of work, it is a really, really important skill to have. So keep tuned, I promise you, you won't regret it. So a PA, a public announcement, is an essential safety tool. Now we use it, we as the flight crew use it to keep information flowing from that little locked room up in the front back to all of the passengers in the back. Now, I cannot overemphasize how important it is to make sure that everyone in the back is always informed about what's going on. When people are not informed about what's happening around them, people start to make up their own kind of idea and their own picture of reality. So if you've had a long delay, and I'm sure most of you guys who are watching this have had a delay inside of an aircraft, you know what happens when the pilot does not give information for a long while. People start to talk each other, people start to whisper, I wonder what sure we have some kind of technical name or what this is, and it starts to spread. Okay, this is not something we want. What we want is we want to make sure that everyone is involved in what's going on, so there is no question mark. That way, people are much more happy. So we use the PAs that way, and once again, I'm sure that all of you have had the sensation of sitting inside of a cabin, trying to listen to. You hear that something is going on in the PA, but you can just hear some mumbling, and everyone is kind of, trying to hear what he or she's saying, and you cannot make out the words. All right. The reason for this is that at the moment we're not putting enough emphasis on practicing making PAs. To make a good PA is actually kind of like it's something that requires planning, training, a good thought. So what we're going to start, what I'm going to start by doing is just giving you some pointers on how to make a good PA, what you need to think about. All right. So to make a good PA, you need to have a plan. You need to know what you're saying. If you are really experienced, you might be able to wing it. You might be able to kind of make it up as you go on. But the likelihood is that if you have a lower experience, you need to have some kind of structure to keep to. So what I always emphasize and what I always tell my guys to do is have a PA for a given situation. For example, you're en route to PA. Follow the same structure all the time. You just change things like weather, arrival time, destinations, and things like that. That way, you will not stutter. You won't, kind of fall over yourself as you're making the PA. But there's is that whenever you do something, whenever you do something on autopilot, you tend to do things quicker and quicker as you get more and more experienced. Now, this is a no-no. You cannot do this because essentially, if I was speaking to you guys, if I was sitting here and you were speaking to me, I could speak fairly quickly. You'd be able to see my mouth, you'd be able to see my facial expressions, and you see my body language. And that way, I can give you information really quickly because there's a lot of ways that you can input the data. With a PA, that's not the case. With a PA, you will only hear my voice and you won't be able to see anything of the rest, which means that to make a good PA, you need to speak slowly. All right? You need to speak slowly. You need to really articulate the words. And you need to speak at a proper volume. If you're not doing that, it will only sound like a mumble in the back. And people, most people, they do want to listen to what you have to say. So, have a plan of what you're going to say. Take the mic up, and this is another mistake that people do. The mic needs to be very close to your mouth. Okay. So the technique that I use myself is I rest the PA mic on my chest. That way, the mic is about a centimeter and a half away from the mouth. I go over to the audio select PA, turn up the volume. That way, I'll be able to hear my own voice in the PA channel. And I can judge whether or not I'm speaking loud enough so that people can hear. Because it differs between different aircraft. So aircraft PA audio volume will be very high, some aircraft will be very low. So you might need to change your volume a bit, how much you speak. Sorry, how loud you speak. So when I start speaking, I speak much slower. I try to speak much slower than I would normally. Articulate it, emphasize it like I'm doing now. Long 86 slot delays. If you want to know what slot delay is, then look at previous video about Right, so let's say that ATC has contacted us and they've said that unfortunately you have a slot in 2 hours.
Oh yeah,
The way I would talk to the cabin crew. Always, if you're going to do something that involves the passengers and something that they need to do, always inform the cabin crew what you're going to say. So, I will take a minute or so to think through what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to start with the PA. So, ladies and gentlemen, This is Captain.
Ngelakuin nggak? Transfer ya?
Unfortunately, we have been
Nggak
informed
ditransfer.
by air traffic
Saya
control
bilangnya
that
masih
the issue is
gangguan kan.
ATC slot restriction.
Nah,
What that
saya
means
tahu.
is that the skies over Europe
Apa
on
nih?
our route is a
Pin.
bit crowded.
Mama lagi.
So
Tapi pakai
instead of
PA nggak
us
itu.
waiting on
Pembayaran
wheels,
PA
we're
nggak
given a
itu.
specific takeoff time. Now that takeoff time is in about an hour and a half from now. So we are going to have to sit and wait for up to 1.5 hours before we can make our way. Now, me and my colleague are working really hard up here in the front to try to convince air traffic control that we're ready to go. Which means that we're
Iya,
trying
jadi
to
ono
get
kantor,
out of
ono
the situation.
omah,
But
ono.
right now, it looks like we're going to have to sit and wait here for a while. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off the seatbelt sign
Oh itu,
and
anu itu, anak
use the
Pakistan
toilets,
dari
be
ini.
able to use your
Mana
mobile phones to
tempat
call your
masuk,
relatives
ya.
and tell them that you're going to be a little bit late. But, and this is very important, if I switch the seatbelt sign back on again,
Oh
it
iya.
means that we have gotten an improvement on the slot. We might have to start moving very, very shortly. So if you hear the seatbelt sign go back on, it sounds like this, demonstrated. Then I need you to get back into your seats, sit down, put your seatbelt sign on, and switch off your mobile phones.
Itu
That's
yang jualku kene keto, aku ngelungguh nu
very
keto.
quickly available. I'll give you more information as the time progresses. Thank you.
Jadi
So that
ngajar,
would be an example of
ngajar,
more or less for a slot delay. As you can see, I try to emphasize the important points, like for example, what the passengers need to do, what they can do, and so on. And then, as the slot time progresses, even if I don't have any more information, every at least 15 or 20 minutes, probably around 15 minutes, I will go back out and make a new PA, just telling passengers that we still have the same slot time, there's no update, we're working on trying to improve it. Because no information is actually a kind of, no information in the form of PA is actually information. They will know that we're working on it, so they won't be starting to get frustrated, because you really quickly get frustrated without information. So that's one example of a PA. Now, who does the PAs? Well, it's going to be the captain who does the welcome and PA all the time. The reason for that is because it's important that the captain establishes his or her voice to passengers. So in case of, for example, an emergency evacuation or a really important PA announcement, the passengers will recognize the voice of the commander and hopefully
Ya enggak, undangan murid bukan masuk deh. Mulai ngajar. Lah misalnya nggak bot, nggak whiteboard itu.
The first officers to make the PAs as well. And what we tend to do is the one who is pilot flying on the leg that's being flown tends to be the one making the PA. So now you know that the person who's doing the PA will land the aircraft. When it's emergency situations, it tends to be the captain who does it as well for the same reason that I just mentioned. And we're talking about emergency PA, so PAs that happens if we have a non-normal situation. It's even more important that you really, really emphasize what you're saying, and that you have a plan of what you say before you say it. So once again, in case we have an our first priority is always to fly.
Ini
We
Ustaz.
deviate, we navigate, and the communication will happen. Once we have everything under control, checklists are being more or less done, we have a plan of what we're going to do, we discuss the plan amongst each other. And also, the first thing I will do before I make a PA is I'm going to have a briefing with my cabin crew where I outline what's going on. I take their impressions about what the situation is in the cabin. And then, depending on what he or she says, then modulate, change the PA, depending on the current situation. When I make the PA, there are a couple of things that are really important.
Oh,
First
itu
of all, we
diklik
do not give a lot of technical information because it is not for any help. Most people will not understand the technical information anyway, so we're not going to go in too much depth. But never ever lie to passengers. Don't tell them that you're diverting because of bad weather when there's a technical malfunction, for example. So tell them but don't get into too much detail. Also, always avoid words like emergency, like fire, lost an engine.
Rapat, alakop,
Anything like that is
pengajian.
going to most likely
Kepesertaannya
bring
berguna
more
juga.
damage than good to the passengers.
Selain dulu neng ngomong itu,
Had an engine
saya hadir tenan ngono.
What we tend to
Saya selama ini kan
have
kayak Zoom kayak ini kan
technical
cuma 2 dimensi, neng tembok. Saya kan 4 dimensi, ono suaranya bareng.
we are going to divert or we're going to land
Itu hadir beneran.
XYZ airport. I want you to follow my cabin crew's instructions, and I will give you more information about your ongoing travel once we get down on the ground. So we have the companies working on providing you with alternate travel. More information about that once we've landed. And we're going to do that in approximately 15 to 20 minutes from now. What you do by that is a couple of things. First of all, you're showing the passengers that someone is in charge, right? That the captain is still up there, he or she is doing what they're supposed to, and by the tone of your voice, which is supposed to be calm and supposed to be constructive like this, they will also know that, he or she sounds quite calm, so this is probably not that bad. So that calms the situation down. Also, they will know that you have a plan, they will know what's going on, more or less, and you have also empowered your cabin crew. You've told them to listen to the cabin crew, because the cabin crew's main and in this situation, sole purpose is to be the safety personnel inside of the cabin. Okay? So it's really important that the cabin crew has the authority from the captain to do their job in the way. The third thing that we've done is that
Presentasi
have taken their
Nih, laporan saya.
failure that's going on and focused
Presentasi
on
nang
what's going to happen.
Tanda
So yeah, this is going to divert. So I wonder if we're going to get buses. I wonder how late we're going to be. And that's what you want. You want the passengers to be focusing on what's happening after the landing. You don't want them to focus on whatever is going on right now, because that will just bring them more
Itu sing
anxiety.
aktif. Jadi
So
saat
you
ini
see
saya
that there is a clear thought behind this, and it's
nggak
extremely
mau
important that you
membuka
have
apa nggak tidak
a
sambil
clear
web
picture and
memang di.
plan of what you're going to say. And
Ya iki web iki maksudnya web iki nih.
this goes for all
Web
the
sing
PAs
anak
that you ever
tanggalan.
make. The way you make the PA is going to reflect how you
Ini kan anak terus ini
and
tuh
how
kita
the company is being perceived by the
Kalau ingin buka apa YouTube apa ya?
So you know that I have in previous podcasts been emphasizing the fact that you need to dress well, that you need to be, you need to keep your dress code going, you need to keep your uniform neat and so
Oh
on,
ya.
because you want to project that image of the airline. Well, a PA is kind of the audio equivalent of your uniform. The way you make a PA is
Oh
going
iki
to
web.
be lasting
Sing anu nih sing
passengers on how they perceive your entire airline. Right? So if you make a good PA, a welcoming, a positive, and a nice PA that people can hear properly, they will go away with a much more positive feeling about your airline. Okay. So this is why it's important, guys, that you think about this when it comes to your PAs. Don't be nervous. You can practice this at home and everything, but do try to make
Coba di yang kiri loh, kiri loh.
really worth it. Okay, good. That's all I have to say about PAs, guys. If you have more questions, as always, give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Share the channel with everyone that you think might like it. And also, I want to emphasize, guys, that you can still buy my virtual reality application. Mentor 360 is available both on App Store and Google Play Store. It's getting great reviews. We have 5 stars all over the world, actually. And if you really want to join me in a flight deck and see how I operate together with my colleague, then I would definitely recommend you to get this app. And if you really want a truly immersive kind of experience, then get into www.mentor360.com and get yourself a pair of these really simple VR glasses. They're good for what they do. Guys, have a fantastic day. I'll see you in my upcoming podcast, which is going to come quite soon. And so have a fantastic day, and I'll see you.
Oh, Gak kudu nih game muncul lah. Cari. Oh iya. Oh iya.
Kan persen itu mungkin bolehnya apa? Itu anggap
Oh iya betul. Jadi si mau
Hi guys, welcome to Mentor, yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're all doing
Oh
fantastic.
iya.
So, I am midway through my vacation at the moment, and I thought that it's way too long since I made a video for my friends out there. So I hope you guys have missed me, because here it comes, the next one. Today's topic is, do pilots ever get nervous? Right, this is a question that I'm getting surprisingly often on my YouTube videos.
Jadi langsung menutupi dan pilihan lah nih
Yes, of course pilots get nervous. We're human just like everyone else. When I was about to propose to my now wife, I was really nervous, and you know, I was nervous for my license skill tests. There's been a lot of times where I have been nervous.
Oh,
But
choose
I
one.
guess
Oh
that
yeah.
I've actually been asking
Choose what to
people
sell.
who get nervous when they work.
Choose what to sell ya.
The answer to that is yes, but it's not what you think, right? Pilots tend to get nervous at work about 3 times per year. They get nervous for their operator proficiency check, their license proficiency check, and their line check. Okay, these are the checks that all the pilots have to go through every year to make sure that they are fit to do their work. And nobody really likes being not questioned, but being evaluated on the professionalism. Okay, and whenever you know that you are going to be subjected to a test, it's kind of human to become a bit nervous. Some people get really nervous for the simulator, and some people get less nervous, but everyone has to get butterflies in the stomach. Now, it's not actually, we shouldn't really be that nervous, okay, because even if we would fail, if you've gotten your job, fail license proficiency check, for example, the airline would just evaluate what kind of retraining you need to go through, and then they will train you in the areas needed. It might be engine failure after takeoff that you need to practice a bit more or something like that. And once they have trained you up to the proficiency needed, you would do a recheck, and if you're within limits, then you would just go back online. All right. So, but you know, we really want to perform well, so people tend to get nervous. Now, I'm guessing that wasn't actually what you guys were wondering. You were wondering whether or not we get nervous when we are going out for a day of flying. That makes sense for someone who has let's say that you work in a supermarket or you work in an electronic shop, for example.
Just what it says.
You have to work every day. You want to about 200 to 300 customers
of your screen
during the day. But
the screen,
on a specific weekend, there's going to be a flash
Windows,
sale. There's going to be a reduction in prices in your shop. So you know that on that day, there's going to be not hundreds, but maybe thousands of customers. Right. Would you get nervous for that? Or would you just feel like, maybe I need to sleep well before this day? That's worth asking. Because this is essentially how pilots deal with things, alright? So, if me, for example, if I'm sitting in my sofa the day before a flight and I'm watching TV and I see that there's a big storm coming in over the English Islands and I know I'm going to be flying to London tomorrow, then I'm not going to get nervous, but I will probably take my mobile phone up and check the aviation weather to see, what is the terminal area forecast saying. We tend to have 18 or even 24 hours of good forecasts available to us. See what, is this going to be close to the limits? How bad is this going to be? And what kind of alternates do I have? So I would start to prepare already the day before. And I will probably go into work a little bit earlier the following day, because I know that, all right, this is going to be potentially a very challenging day, so I better give myself some extra time to find good alternates, to talk to my first officers, to decide, how are we going to deal with this day, and so on. So would I get nervous? No. Would I tense up a little bit and be a bit more focused? Yes. And that's exactly how pilots, now, as always, I'm talking for myself here, I can't talk for everyone else, but this is how I tend to deal with things when I know that it's going to be challenging. The next question is, which I'm also guessing that you guys want to know, is do we get nervous if something goes wrong? Now, that is a bit harder to know, actually, because it's going to be up to you, how you are as a person. And some people get nervous when under pressure. I would like to think, and I know that in my case I've had a few things that's gone wrong, and technical things that's gone wrong, and I tend to get more focus when it happens, because that's when the training kicks in. This is why it's so important that you guys are about to enter training, or are inside of a type rating or inside of a training course right now, realize that the training that you guys are doing is essential. Okay, it's really, really important that you really spend time understanding what it is that you're studying, understanding, for example, in the type rating, why we need to know what the correct names are for the quick reference handbook checklists, those are the emergency checklists, why we need to know the technical details of the aircraft. Because when things go wrong, that's when the training really kicks in. And that's when you become, the times that has happened to me, when we have, for example, some kind of minor technical or bigger technical malfunction, or when you have someone getting sick on board and things like that, you refer back to what you know, what you've learned before, and you become more focused at the task in hand. And you make sure that you involve all the crew members, that the communication is working well, that decision-making skills are there, that you speak to your first officer, you speak to the cabin crew, you make good PAs to the passengers, to ensure that everyone involved knows what's going on, and that you're using the correct checklists, and that you're evaluating whether those checklists are actually working. So, do we get nervous before it happens? Of course not, because we don't know that it's going to happen. Do we get nervous? Do I get nervous when it's happening? No, because you become so focused on trying to solve the problem that you don't have time to be nervous. You might be tense, absolutely. You might feel in your stomach that you really want to perform now, but nervous as in shaking hands and so on, hopefully not. Because you're now working on trying to solve the problem, and only once you are down on the ground and the situation has been solved, and the passenger was sick, is being taken care of, or the technical problem is being looked at and engineered, only then can you look back. And most of the time when you look back and like, oof, that was intense, but I'm really glad that I did pay attention during my type rating, or that I did read up on those systems, because I really needed it this time. And that's also a good time to recap what happened. So it's always a good idea that if something does go wrong, or something does happen, that you gather up your crew afterwards and you have a discussion, a debriefing with your cabin crew and with your first officer, talking about, was there something, how did you feel that it went? Was there something you could have done differently? Did the cabin crew feel that they were part of the decision-making process, that everyone felt like we were handling the situation in the best possible way? So it's always good to do a bit of a debriefing in order for you to learn from whatever experience that you've had. And also, we always make a report, and this is also very important. Anytime something like this has happened, whatever it might be technical, might be medical, that there's a report filed. Normally in your airline there will be a reporting system. So you go in, you file that, and it's getting filed both to the authorities and to the airline, so that everyone can learn from whatever it is that happened. That is how we push the safety work forward in the airline industry. We learn from everything, and every mistake that's being made is not good, obviously, but we can all learn from them. Even if something was done really well, people can learn from it. So it's important that you do good and accurate reporting after an incident.
So guys, that's at least my answer to if pilots get nervous. I hope that makes sense to you guys, and as always I hope that you're all doing fantastic. Now I just wanted to mention as well that I am doing a summer sale on my application Mentor 360, so make sure you go into our websites www.mentor360.com, and if you thought that it was expensive before, then take your chance now. I'm going to have it down to €2 for a couple of weeks. And also, if you really want an immersive experience, you really want to feel like you're part of the flight crew together with me and Holly, then you get yourself a virtual reality headset, a pair of headphones, you get in, you watch the briefing videos first, and then you watch the individual exercises. And I am working on new material, guys, so soon, my friends, soon it will be there. For now, have a fantastic day. I hope that you're all doing fantastic as always, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ini mau perang gitu.
Tidak, tidak.
Ini masih ruangan ini.
Kenapa?
Ruangan.
Ya, begitu. Ayo, dying. Sama window apa?
Kita ruangan lah.
Ya biasa. Orang yang layar itu muncul.
Hi everybody, and very welcome to Mentor, yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're all doing fantastic. So, today on the podcast, guys, we are going to talk about if all pilots are safe and if all pilots are equally good. Right, the reason that I'm raising this is because I've had a lot of questions on this subject, and also because of the horrible Germanwings accident that happened last year. So, what I want to start by doing is I want to show you guys the kind of suitability tests that are being done throughout your training and in the beginning of your professional career, and also in the continuation of your professional career, to make sure that you are suitable to do this job in a safe way. All right. So to start with, I have always, and I will continue to, tell you guys that before you go into any kind of aviation training, I want you to go and do a suitability test. Now, a suitability test is basically a battery of tests that are done by trained aviation psychologists. They will be trained to evaluate you and your personality type and your general psychological fitness to do this job in a good way. This might sound a bit daunting. A lot of people do not like to go through these tests, but I insist that it's a good idea to do. Why is that? Well, basically it's because these tests you will have to do at one point or another. If you don't do them before you start your training, before you start paying a lot of money to go into this type of training, you will likely do it at the end of your training when you are going for your first airline interview. So I would say that it's probably better to do it and possibly have a negative response before you've paid a lot of money for your training than after you've done so. And this is why I keep pressing that it's so important to do. Now, once you've done that and you have been green-lighted, because the sad fact is that not everyone will get the go-ahead when you do these psychological tests. This doesn't mean that it's over for all future. It just means that where you are in your life at that particular point, maybe you're not mature enough, maybe there's certain points on your personality that you need to work a little bit on, and you can do so. But as I said, it's better to do that early. Now, if you have been green-lighted by the aviation psychologist and you start your training, then throughout your training, you will have... But first of all, your instructors, your aviation instructors, will be evaluating you during your sessions when you're flying. They'll be looking into how your stick and rudder skills are, but also how you handle when you're under stress. You know, when you're doing exercises that might be a little bit more advanced. They will see how you react to it, and they will debrief you on what you need to work on,
what you can do better, and what you're doing well. So that's how preparation works. Now, at different stages in your training, you will do tests to make sure that you're following the curve that is expected. And of course, at the end of each training part, so at the end of your pilot license, your CPL, your instrument rating, your MCC, not your MCC course actually, but all of the others, you will have a skill test. And the skill test, they will also evaluate that you can do all the exercises to the standard that is needed, but also how you as a person are, and how if you are dealing with stress in a good way. So basically the whole of your training is going to be full of these little exams and little tests that you need to do. So that's the first part of the screening. Then, as I was saying, when you start looking for that precious first job, and most of you guys who are out there looking for jobs now can testify to this, first of all, it's really hard to get that first job interview, because there's generally quite a lot of people with very little experience who are looking for these jobs. So the airlines will pick and choose which ones they think are best. They will take them in for an interview.
Biasa otomatis. Turun saja. Atau mungkin tidak otomatis kali di gaya otomatis. Ada mungkin nggak? Sudah. Oh iya tak? Iya.
Sampai ku lewat itu. Ayo masuk. Masuk. Cak Om, silakan masuk. Assalamualaikum. Tunggu. Halo. 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 Tes. Halo. 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 Suaranya kalau min. Sama nomor dulu.
Ya, umur sudah.
Sama nomor dulu kalau soalnya mak.
Iya, dah. Soalnya gitu. Orang bisa mengurangi soalannya.
Mat. Halo. Halo. Oh masuk. Bisa Pak.
Mana tak?
Iya. Amal.
Kon jawab.
Mar.
Jawab apa?
Itu siapa gitu kok kan? Aku loh. Oh kalah.
Karena sungai ya.
Selamat datang Pak Pur.
Gak ikut tak ambil di. Terus aku lu menembak uri. Aku lu menembak uri. Ini apa lagi ngarep ini? Anak seneng.
Komen aku ngarep.
Oh, gurune iki mau main iki.
Oh. Aku dan kumpul.
Capung. Oh, iki awakmu nak kene ngene, sebelah Umar. Ngono. Momen iki sing mlebu aku iki ngono. Momen iki kono karo. Sing mlebu aku tegone mau ngono. Maksudnya aku sing ngetik. Cuma ingin nyoba tuh. Selesai. Ya. Halo.
Iya, Pak.
Dengar. Aman.
Umar di suaranya kamu.
Meke kan ngaktifno.
Kemarin dong, chat. Halo.
Kenapa?
Kan dia sampai settingan ya.
Oh, iki mau ya.
Soalnya mati meneh.
Mati mana? Iki apa iki? Oh,
Soalnya ya di
Mau coba. Bukan. Iya. Bisa. Oh, bisa tuh. Oh. Tapi suaranya enggak ada. Suaramu.
Saran masuk.
Masuk tuh. Suaramu.
Saran aku berumur. Masukkan ke rumah enggak? Saya headset.
Coba ngomong. Betul enggak?
Halo, masuk.
Apa kamu kayak?
Belum tuh ya.
podium lagi ngadeke ning kono piye carane kok iso. Heeh.
Mar, siapa nang ngarep? Aman ta, Pak?
Heeh.
Oh,
Ada ning ngadeg nang podium gak iso. Nek kaya ngadeg ngono tok kae ya. Nek durine podium. Lek pengen nyedekno iki lho pojok kanan bawah itu ijo-ijone digeser nang dhuwur. Iso gede. Pojok kanan bawah. Nah, itu ijo-ijone itu diklik digeser nang dhuwur. Ah, lek nyedek.
internetnya burun ya.
Eh?
Internetnya.
Ya kudu ya minimal gini iki. Terus kayak itu apa sing TV-TV lah, sing TV-TV itu. Si ya ngono itu. Lek internet biasanya kan ngono kabeh ya. Kudu.
Iki sama mana?
Terus kan sini. Agak itu jenenge.
Tak tahu lah juga.
Apa seneng ngarep mau lho. Lek nang ngarep berarti aku.
Ini lalang. Oh, dibayar GDW, GDW.
Coba Oh, iso login. Awakmu iso login mlebu ning nggonmu.
Ya makanya dia nggak mlebu dari situ nih.
Nah,
Mau mergo
saya buka dhewe. Ya. Hidayati sapa? Mami ta?
mami.
Oh iya. Iki awakmu iso, awakmu metu terus login pakai namamu lah. Itu kok log omahmu, kantormu, kelasmu. Iso.
Kawan harus mau punya gini wong. Jadi mau gini wong bisa nggak?
Mbak Puna, Mbak?
Kan gini lumayan sambil itu main kayak aku kan.
Heeh. Ya metu dhisik to mlebu ngene mami. Metu dhisik mlebu ngene mami. Metune ning gone iku mau kan ana apa jenenge? File, profile, terus logout. Nah, profile itu, paling kiri, pilihan paling kiri. Nah, terus ngisor kan logout. Geser ngisor. Nah, itu logout, mlebu meneh ya mami. Alamat mami apa jenenge? Heeh. Ya, login. Anu, mlebu meneh alamat mami, nulis alamat mami. Lek login omahmu dhewe, mlebu omahmu dhewe. Lek ati mlebu ning mami, alamat mami tulisan ning kono. Ya ning alamat iku lho, alamat YouTube, alamat alamat web. Nah, ditulis ning kono. Oh, ana linke ya langsung. Ya wis ngono langsung lek ngono. Jenengmu tulisan ben ngerti, lek gak ditulis gak ana jeneng. Wis ya, sama. Nah, iya gitu mana. Apa-apa wis ini. Anu, login. Login. Ya. Login, lagi gayanya gitu. Login. Nah, wes iku mami itu. Ana tulisane mami harus ngono enggak? Oh iya bener. Mlebu mami nang ndi? Mlaku lagi ketemu. Mi nang ndi? Ngomong, mi nang ndi? Mi nang ndi?
Halo, nih. Wah, baik.
Iya, ngomong. Mi.
Di suaramu.
Ngomong.
Nih, ini aku, Be.
Iya,
Halo,
anak jenenge enggak? Mau mbok jenenge enggak?
aku lagi seneng.
Anak nang ndur jenenge. Ya, nang ndur kepala. Lek gak ono ya mami. Tapi mami paling ora nang ngarepe komputer ya tinggal ngalih.
Nih, masa baca buku.
Tutu, lek awakmu nang ndur ana jenenge. Mau awakmu gawe klambi apa? Klambiku pilih klambi apa? Metu aneh mlebu meneng lagi to. Anu, bajune dieling-eling. Pilihannya akeh nang kanan iku akeh gambar-gambar.
Oh, cermin di yang
Oh iya cermin. Oh iya cerminmu. Ini gambarmu itu. Awak mundur dong lek anu tambah cilik. Nah, iya cermin itu. Nah, nah iki sandra TV nang kono. Nah, iku pilihane. Film India sing akeh. Wis tau sono nang gone developer anu. Tambah TV Indonesia. Jenenge Zen jenenge. Wah, film-film Indonesia anu India. Sing gawe kan arek Pakistan. Anane tambah anu tak kaya alamat apa TV Indonesia.
Oh, enak ya, nonton tenan.
Heeh. Nih, iki aku nonton TV nang omamu, kau nang ndi?
Halo, halo. Apa digoleki? Apa ya? Aku lagi ngerungokno musik dari mami saya dapat. Kayak deke soalnya kebanteran. Halo, iya. Aku nih ngomong sopo iki om suarane. Mami. Oh iya. Aku lagi nonton. Ayo. Kita jalan lagi. Cilekno. Aku nih ruang tamu iki nonton film.
Jadi kan orang mlebuan nang ruang tamu. Aku
Aku
lho
ruang tamu.
enggak ketak metu nang kono dhewe.
Iki kita nyilekno ya suarane musik banter ya. Patane sik TV ne.
Klikin nama, klik silang. Wis.
Sama ini.
Lungguh nang gone sofa. Kon lungguh nang sofa. Sebelah kanan ke kiri.
Ah, itu sing apik sama iki.
Ya iku jadi.
Aidan.
Jangan jadi.
Ya, aku jenenge Aidan ya.
Heeh.
Tapi suaramu ini gitu, bener tuh. Nah, lu guna sebelah tuh. Ya, lu produktif ini mulai. Lo klik kan kamu tool. TV lu klik. Kalau jonin sebelah ini sama. Kayak milih lu gambar TV, nah, pusu-pusu film India kabeh iki film India. Tok tuh video.
Apa anu sing ngisor ana anu berita ngisor ana berita. Geser ngisor.
Hah? Sama TV. Netflix. Netflix barang Our Planet. Full itu. Boy parane krono. Nah, astana Netflix. Keno, gitu. Netflix. Sekarang mana ini? Wong ini wong.
Terus dia marah no, dia acak-acak omae.
Ya, tak mau udah gini mami kok ya, ini mami semua tuh. Mau Umar gini ini Pak Pur, yang anu Pak Pur.
Omae.
Omae Pak Pur mau. Tapi lagi. Ya wes. Stop lagi. Apa ya? Ini bisa bersama orang-orang namanya metaverse. Bisa kuliah sambil orang tak menonton. Ini saya di rumahnya mami. Ini ada Om Yardi. Ya, apa yang dia?
Kan nunggu nang sofa kayak gitu.
Oh, Aiden. Ya, wes tonton ini. Ganti lagi, ganti wes. Apa lagi?
Ngisar.
Kita udah coba.
Iya, nah ini geser. Kanan geser. Gitu. Kan ana TV, ya itu loh TV berita itu. Setengah TV berita itu. Saya makanya tanpa nambah TV Indonesia itu kan TV apa ya CNI itu dari Singapura. Ono Al Jazeera, nggak lama tuh Al Jazeera. Dure. Setengah. Itu Al Jazeera yang dure.
Tuh, yang dua.
Pindah.
Lagi. Oh, bisa sampai. Musiknya ini. Tuh. Lain kan itu
Nggak bisa.
muncul datanya. Kalau SKSPG masih error.
Kalau sesama muamalah
Muncul data
bisa berarti. Bentar, aku tadi kan ada mukmin, ada wali murid yang tadi transfer tabungan, tak coba ya. Bentar. Pemahamu gitu loh nih, maaf ini. Lantai 2. Jadi ini siswa, oh punya tanggung jawab sosial.
Baru setengah 10 nih. Kalau mudun yang ini.
Ya nang ini itu, nah, nang ini tangga terus ya, nggak bisa. Paling belum bisa keluar, cuma ntar lama lagi. Tuh.